Coming up on the rundown for today's Philadelphia 76ers. Now, should the Sixers trade for Donovan Mitchell? According to a report, D-Mitch's time in Cleveland might be coming to an end. And with that, let's pop up today's poll question. Let's hear from everybody right now down in the comment section. Do you want the Sixers to trade for the Spider? T for trade, P for pass. Sound off with what you think, and we'll share our thoughts coming up right now. Chaos once again in Cleveland after being bounced in the second round of the NBA playoffs at the hands of the Boston Celtics. Rumors now swirling about the Cavaliers' future. And this centers around Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland because it looks as though Cleveland is going to have to pick one of these stars or one of these good players, depending on what you think of them and what they're capable of, to build around as we project into the future. Chris Fedor, Cleveland.com, with the local insight here, reported this right in the aftermath of the Cavaliers getting bounced by Boston. Donovan Mitchell grew frustrated with some of his teammates' lack of maturity, focus, playoff-level readiness, and a willingness to listen. Mitchell reportedly unhappy with the Cleveland Cavaliers coaching staff, and once again, J.B. Bickerstaff's future somewhat in question, a little bit cloudy here. Here's a report from The Athletic here on Bickerstaff and whether or not he's going to return. Multiple league sources have said for months that Mitchell did not have great confidence in Bickerstaff, and he was not alone. Several players questioned Bickerstaff's strategies, game management, practice habits, and accountability measures, privately and publicly throughout the season. And the Cavs here are unsure of Mitchell's fit with Darius Garland. And if the Cleveland Cavaliers pick Donovan Mitchell, then Rich Paul might try to have Darius Garland moved elsewhere. I do want to say this as well. When teams fail and when they don't live up to expectations or when they get bounced in the playoffs, it's become increasingly more humorous that they just blame the coach and they don't blame themselves. Like, did anybody expect the Cavaliers and J.B. Bickerstaff to at least be somewhat competitive when they were at full strength against the Boston Celtics? No, they're down multiple starters in that game last night to Boston. The Cavaliers have been a solid team throughout this year. Last year they were pretty good, but the Celtics are a damn powerhouse. And because they got bounced early, it's not on us. We're not going to take any accountability. We're going to act like James Harden and just point fingers. It's on the coach. Here's more from The Athletic on the Cavaliers. Rival executives believe the Cavs will have to seriously evaluate the fit of Mitchell and Garland and ultimately may have to choose one or the other should Mitchell decide to stay long-term. Sources briefed on the matter say Garland's representation, Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul, would have a conversation with Cavs officials on potentially finding a new home for the one-time All-Star. Now, what is Mitchell's future with Cleveland? I thought when they traded for him, it was only a matter of time before he was going to try to force his way to the New York Knicks, maybe force his way to the Miami Heat. Mitchell's entering the final year of his deal, which makes this conversation very interesting, especially for Philadelphia. I actually don't hate the future outlook for what Cleveland has. I think Evan Mobley, if he improves his offensive game, really good two-way player. Jarrett Allen with the bruised ribs, weird he didn't play in the playoffs. But you have a couple of pieces on that team, Isaac Okoro, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, the aforementioned players that I talked about, Max Strus. They have a decent team and a decent roster where they can be a factor in the Eastern Conference. Then we shift gears to what Brian Windhorst had to say on Donovan Mitchell. When I talk to people behind the scenes, it's all over the place. I got people telling me Donovan is staying. I got other guys saying, and I don't mean like people who don't know, I got other guys saying he ain't signing. Multiple NBA teams are preparing to make trade packages for Donovan Mitchell if it looks in a month or so that he might be a trade candidate. Lakers, Heat, Nets, possibly the Rockets. Also teams expected to be at the top of the list to inquire if he is traded. The bottom line is this. Whether it be a Donovan Mitchell trade, whether it be a new coach, whether it be other roster movement, a Darius Garland trade, moving Evan Mobley, moving Jarrett Allen, changes are coming for the Cavs. Could the Sixers be a part of those changes? Stay tuned. We're going to get to that right around the corner. Will Donovan Mitchell be traded? A simple Y for yes or an N for no. Let us know down in the comment section. And coming up next, should the Sixers consider a Donovan Mitchell trade? I have a lot of thoughts on this. So does producer Chip. First, I have a lot of thoughts on PrizePicks. And what are my thoughts? If you're not on the PrizePicks wagon, you're missing out. It's the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. You can pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on their projected stats. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. And you can get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Our selections for tonight: Anthony Edwards, more than 29.5 points. Do or die game for the T-Wolves. I think they're cooked, but I think the Ant-Man is going to come to play. It's going to have to handle those double teams a little bit better. Caitlin Clark, more than 20.5 points against the New York Liberty. She struggled a little bit in her WNBA debut. And then Nikola Jokic, more than 50.5 points, rebounds, and assists. The Undertaker meme, it is real for Denver. Win big money, withdraw your winnings, pick more, pick less, all with PrizePicks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, $100 deposit match. So should the Sixers consider a trade for D-Mitch here? It is so fascinating on multiple fronts because you know what type of player he is. A bucket getter, a volume scorer who, when he's been in the NBA playoffs, he has never made it past the second round, but the production has steadily been there. He can shoot, he can score, he can find twine from all 3 levels. He really is one of the best scorers in the NBA. Now, does he give you much else other than that? He doesn't. But in a big moment, he's not going to shy away from taking the big shot. And we saw what the Cavs tried to do, what other teams have tried to do, like the Portland Trailblazers with Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum. They model after what the Warriors did. You have 2 guards who can shoot. You think it's going to work. It hasn't worked for those other teams outside of Golden State. One thing that has remained consistent, though, with D-Mitch, putting the biscuit in the basket. Last 4 years, he's been right around that 25, 26, 27, 28 points per game mark. And with the volume and how many shots he takes, the efficiency, not bad, especially the last 2 years. 46%, 48%, and then the last 2 years from distance, nearly 39% and 37%. In the playoffs this year, this is when he thrives. This is when he rises to the occasion. He is not going to clam up in a big spot. 29.5 points in his 10 playoff games this year. Out the last 2 games because of a calf strain. You felt as though the Cavs were doomed right then, and they were. 5+ rebounds, less than 5 assists. He dropped the 50-point piece in Game 6 against the Orlando Magic in a loss. He's always capable of going off, 450 at any given moment. And the numbers, pretty good as far as the shooting. 47.5% from the field, 35% from three-point range. So with that, does a Donovan Mitchell trade make sense for Philadelphia? Real quick for me before I throw it to Chip here, flank to my right. I don't know if this works for Philadelphia because the Blazers and the Cavs try to replicate what the Warriors did. Donovan Mitchell is a ball-dominant player. He likes to shoot. He's a volume offensive guy. So how does he fit alongside Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid? I don't think he fits all that well. That's why I've said Mikal Bridges is the perfect fit because he's not a ball-dominant player. Those are my quick thoughts, Chip. What say you?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting fit. I'm a little bit higher on Donovan Mitchell with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. I think they'd be able to work it out despite all 3 of them being so ball-dominant. I would, though, as you said, probably prefer Mikal Bridges in the team. Now, thing with Donovan Mitchell, you have the good, right? He's going to perform in the playoffs. He really has these past couple of years. When it comes down to it at the end of games, he can take a shot when you need it. Is it realistic, though? Because the Cavaliers are one of those teams that are right up against that first apron in the luxury tax. Once a team goes above that first apron, which they probably will because they're going to have guys they're going to have to bring back, they cannot acquire players through sign and trade in a trade. And of course, you all know the Sixers have pretty much nobody in the roster. All they have to offer in a trade right now is draft picks and Paul Reed. That's really it. So if you're making a trade for a superstar player, if they want players back, it's going to have to be through sign and trade. And the Cavaliers are more likely than not going to be able to take players in a sign and trade. So would they want just 3, 4, maybe 5 first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell? I don't think so. They're a team to me that feels more like they'd want some complementary pieces. Maybe, a team like the Heat could offer up Tyler Hero, or the Lakers. I don't really think they have that much to offer, but of course they're thrown into every single trade rumor. Regardless, there are probably a few ways I'd rather go before Mitchell. As well, he's on an expiring deal. So if he comes, the team doesn't perform like you want, maybe he doesn't like the fit, he doesn't like the coaching, whatever it is, and he doesn't buy in, he can just leave, which is very, very scary. And if you do keep him, that's a 4-year, $200 million deal, $50 million a year. Do you want to give that to someone like Donovan Mitchell when you're already paying Embiid $50 million and you're going to pay Tyrese Maxey $40 million a year this offseason? I don't think so. Would it be dynamic? Yes. Would it fit? Not sure. I don't think we'll see it regardless, though.
Yeah, I'm curious, too, for a player who relies a lot on that start-stop ability, the step back, getting to his spot. He's 27 years old. Somewhere on the tires. You look at a player like Damian Lillard, who, like D-Mitch, is a little bit smaller. He's 33. We're seeing the injuries pile up. We're seeing some signs of decline. Are you comfortable with paying a player that much money who has to rely on those nuances of his game to be successful? It's certainly a fascinating conversation to have. So let's pop this back up. Do you want the Sixers to trade Donovan Mitchell? Did I convince you against it? Did Chip convince you for it? T for trade, P for pass. Sound off with what you think, and keep your eyes peeled for more great content on the Sixers coming up.